Welcome back to Marshall Remodel. For those of you who haven't been following along or are new to the channel, I'm Paul Marshall and this is my wife Emily.
And this is our story.
Alright guys, so Marshall Remodel got started because my wife and I were trying to renovate our lives and choose joy, a life of joy where we just live a little bit simpler, kind of try to slow things down and take back control of our busy lives.
Yes, so becoming Marshall Remodel has been, what we've been working on for the last 3 years. But really, this is a dream that's nearly 20 years in the making.
Sure.
It goes all the way back to when you bought our first home from your family.
If you go back to the beginning, after I graduated college, I started a career in law enforcement. I had a 15-year career as a police officer, and right at the beginning of that, I bought an old 2-story brick farmhouse from my grandfather. My great-grandfather originally built it, and I did not have any money to pay to have it redone, so I just kind of tore it apart and started teaching myself.
Yeah, you didn't really even know what you were doing either.
Not really.
I remember meeting you and seeing kind of hearing about the story and seeing the house that you had redone, and you literally pulled out a book that you had bought at the home improvement store called DIY 123 or something like that.
Yeah.
And that was before Google and...
Yeah, so I mean, I really learned out of necessity, and I think this house will probably end up being my favorite, but to this day, that's my most favorite house we've ever lived in. I mean, when we got married, we moved in there and we continued renovations. We did some really cool stuff after we got married and you moved in. We had our first 2 kids at that house,
but it's the house that's inspired a lot of this project.
Yeah, sure.
Just the idea of having a house that was built by your great-grandfather, the original hardwood floors we kept in that house, and just those little bits of character. That's what has put so much inspiration into this build and what we want it to turn into. We'd love to, 100 years from now, have somebody sitting on camera or whatever they have 100 years from now talking about this house in the same way that we think about that first house we had.
Oh.
Yeah, so we actually met just over 15 years ago now. We've been married almost 14, and I think we started out pretty typical. Like, we both had college debt, we both had car payments. You fortunately had a house. I was just getting out of school. And
let's be clear on something. I had a little college debt, but it actually had nothing to do with college. I actually had a full ride basketball scholarship, but I took advantage of they made it sound like free money. So I still have a 4-wheeler that I paid for with my college student loan. But yeah, we were at a little bit different points in our lives. I'd been working as a police officer for a little over 4 years, and it was about a year in, and I think your parents gave us Dave Ramsey, right?
Yes, yeah, they gave us Financial Peace University actually as our Christmas present, and that is what set a lot of this into motion. It wasn't that we had high-paying jobs. Actually, I had a job that I made less than I did when I was in school, but it really inspired both of us to just look at our lives differently. We decided that we weren't making all that much money, so why not make the most of it? It's not, I remember telling some friends, I was like, it's not like we have enough money that we can do that cool of stuff, so we might as well pay off our debt and see where the next few years take us. No, we've definitely, it helped us strike a balance between just our desires and learning how to work together towards common goals. And so, I mean, if you're familiar with what Financial Peace University is, I mean, it's an extreme way to set yourself up financially. And we said, we're all in. So, I mean, we literally followed everything, to the T. We paid off a tremendous amount of debt in a very short amount of time. while we were both working full time, we pushed pause on having children as quickly as maybe we would have, because we just felt like it was important that we get ourselves out of debt and that we live in that way. We had no idea what it would mean for us even today.
As we said before, I was in law enforcement for 15 years, and like Emily said, when we had kids, she stayed home, and I think that's kind of the beginning of where we started to realize that things needed to change. It was just, I worked in a pretty dangerous area. I was pretty involved in the department, so I was doing a lot of different things, and during that time, I mean, I could have been working 60 to 80 hours a week, and Emily was home alone with the kids, and that was kind of stressful.
Well, yes. I mean, that was stressful if you have a spouse that has abnormal work hours and things like that. That puts a big strain, but then just the layer of stress and impact on you
Sure.
that your particular line of work had, I think was, just it amplified that.
Yeah. And we just got to the point where, for me, the risk versus reward of doing what I was doing, I really enjoyed my career in law enforcement. I loved catching the bad guy, if I'm being honest. I mean, it was fun. Yeah. But when you get married, you have kids, things change. Our world's changing really fast, as everybody knows, and it was just time for us to kind of take a different path, different road.
Yeah. I mean, it impacted just every area of our life. It impacted our relationship. It impacted our faith, and I think it just, you've said it before to people that it's a bit of a young man's game.
Yeah.
And so we got to the point where it was just time. Like not everybody would have to do this, but we decided that for us, it meant we needed to change everything.
And I think one of the most important things that you need to understand, especially for you younger people, this choice would not have even been an option for us had we not done the Dave Ramsey thing and got ourselves out of debt. I think one thing that Emily and I have always agreed on is we've always wanted to have options. We've never wanted to be stuck. And had we not been in that financial position, we would have been stuck, and things could have turned out a lot different. So, anybody can change their circumstances if they want. And the thing you need to realize is nobody else can make decisions for you for the most part except for you. So if you want drastic changes, sometimes you have to take drastic measures.
Yeah, but to have the option to take those drastic changes,
Sure.
again, goes back to it's literally been every single day we've chosen to live differently than.
Yeah, and that's why we're able to build this house. I mean, when we started Dave Ramsey, we sold the vehicles we had. I drove a 95 Ford Escort 2-door hatchback with a smashed in front end, and we bought Emily a 97 Mercury Tracer, and we drove those for quite a few years. And I mean, I'd get made fun of going to work. They'd be like, "Man, Paul, why are you driving that thing? You make good money. You can buy a new vehicle, but you have to something gets sacrificed."
Right.
Whether it's your family gets sacrificed, your finances get sacrificed, your dreams get sacrificed, something is always on the chopping block. So you got to decide what is most important to you. And we didn't go on vacations.
We did a couple.
We did a few, but not like a lot of our friends did. But I don't feel like I really missed. Do you feel like you missed out on a lot?
Oh, well, I'm more of a traveler anyway, so I would have loved it if we had thrown in a couple of extra trips and stuff. But again, like overall, I think that we did what had to be done, given the career paths that we had chosen, given the options that we wanted to have for our family. We did what we had to do to make those options a reality. So it really isn't a matter of good or bad, or that we made right or wrong choices. It's that for the most part, we've kept our eye on the prize. Sometimes we didn't know what the prize would be. We just knew that it wasn't what we were currently doing.
We always focused on making decisions that would move us forward instead of back. I mean,
Right.
every house we've lived in, we literally bought in an unlivable state. Like, my dad would always say, "What is wrong with you, boy?" Like, he would see these houses that I'm like, I mean, I remember the cemetery house when you found that and it was a foreclosure. I mean, this place was just, it was disgusting. And I saw it and I'm like, this is a gem, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's affordable. It's affordable and we can turn it into something. And
Right.
and that's kind of, those are the chunks of money that helped us
Yes.
kind of move
I mean,
forward.
absolutely. Yes. They gave us the equity that we needed to, to have the cash to get this project off the ground.
Right.
They helped you develop your skill set by
Right.
quite a bit because it taught you, I mean, you've always took a lot of pride in everything that you do, but it taught you that taking pride in, making sure that every construction detail was done to perfection, and
Sure.
you learned a lot of things that you didn't previously know. Every time you do a new project, it would be a new skill set that
Yeah.
you'd take on. So I think that those are the two obvious
Yeah.
benefits that came from that. I mean, it was not easy though.
No.
Like I can, I don't want to go back to living in those kinds of states again for sure.
It's definitely something you want to do in your younger years,
Yes.
if possible.
Or
So-
without young, tiny kids.
Yeah. When we decided like we were going to do something different, it happened quick.
Yeah.
I applied for a job with a fuel and oil company out in Des Moines, Iowa. And I mean, I interviewed in November, got hired in December, and I started at the beginning of January. So I went in to my department and, I dropped a bombshell on them and, we were out of there.
Yeah.
And then, our chaos didn't stop there because I came out here to start working and I bought a house that was unlivable.
Surprise.
Surprise. No running water, no electric. Emily had never seen this place.
Yeah. It was basically mid-flip and a poor flip at that.
Yeah, and it was bad. I slept in a sleeping bag on the floor in the living room. It was disgusting. And I was thinking to myself, what in the world are you doing? And meanwhile, she's back in Illinois with our two bigger kids and then a brand new baby. So, but it's just the way it goes. So you guys came out, a few months later, once I had it livable?
It took us almost 6 months from when you moved to Iowa for us to be able to move to Iowa, and we moved into that house. Our only running water at that point was the bathtub. So bathed the kids, washed the dishes, filled up our water bottles, everything.
And
like
we're
that.
still alive.
Yeah, here we are. Yeah, I mean, again, it's looking back, I can say I would really prefer not to do that again. But it's part of what that daily choice.
Yeah.
To say we're going to do something this way instead of another way in order to get to our goal. And then it was about a year later we sold that place. And
Well, I was about 12 to 14 months into my new, I guess, career. I wouldn't even call it a career because I only lasted 12 to 14 months. I came home, basically said, hey, let's rent a condo, and my job will become finishing this house, flipping it. It was paid for, and I mean it took me about a month and a half, I think, to finish it, and we sold it, and all that cash was what we used to get us to this point in this build.
Yeah. In the meantime, we had purchased this land that the house sits
Right.
on. We weren't sure what to do with it. Land around here is getting really expensive and very hard to come by. And so we came across this piece and we said we have to grab it because it's a good deal. And
at the end of the day, we knew even if we didn't want to build out here, we could make money on this. I think that's important thing to remember is when you're trying to get to an end goal, like all of your purchases have to be good purchases.
Yes.
Cars are not good purchases. Land, houses are good purchases if
Right.
you can buy them right. And we did that. This place you couldn't even drive up into. It was overgrown.
Yeah, get another unlivable kind of situation. That seems to be our theme. We focused on our money going, what little money we had, really relatively.
Yeah.
We focused on making sure that it went towards something that would have potential to have value, and then taking so much pride in your work and not cutting corners with things. So we always did really well on our homes. I mean, we still hear back from people that have bought the homes that we've renovated, with good, we get good feedback from them even still years later.
And when we started this channel, our whole purpose was to, at least mine, was to educate people on this type of construction specifically, because it's a new and upcoming thing. There aren't a lot of builders out there that turn post-frame buildings into homes. And I've been around post-frame buildings for a while, and I love them. And there's just a lot of things that were appealing to me about them over stick frame. Not necessarily saving money, but I wanted a home that was maintenance free.
Yep.
This is all steel. We got all vinyl windows. We don't have any decks. They're all concrete porches. That's important to me because I came from, a career where my whole life was consumed by work and there was just no extra time for family. So I wanted a home that was as maintenance free as possible. And this place is pretty maintenance free. Obviously any home's going to have some things you got to take care of, but overall this is going to be fairly easy to maintain. And secondly, I wanted to provide inspiration and encouragement to people that you can do this. If you put your mind to something, you can do it. I truly believe that. And I think so many of us in the world we live in doubt ourselves. We have dreams, but a dream is only good is if you take some kind of action towards reaching that. So often, and even us, we still say, gosh, we should have done this 5-10 years ago.
Yeah.
There is no perfect time to go after your dream. You're never going to be in a perfect financial spot. You're never going to be in a perfect spot with your family. But the thing you can do is prepare to have choices. And
yes, having the goal of always having options gave us, again, we didn't realize that this is where things would end up, and they're not even ending up here. Like there's a lot more left after this, but just always saying that's the primary goal, is that we have options financially is what gave us the ability to do this, and I really encouraged the start of this channel just over 2 years ago, because I watched Paul do these things oftentimes completely by himself, and it was like, as you guys know, it's beyond impressive to watch one person complete the kind of construction tasks that he does. And so I thought, well, like, people need to see this. They need to see how you can do a lot of things by yourself. Yes, they're a lot easier with one other person, but that isn't always people's option. They don't have a crew, and and especially when it comes down to money, having somebody that's here on this channel to say, here's how you can get it done. So that you don't have to pay the labor. So we get comments, that people are like, oh, you're underestimating yourself. And we completely understand that. Like, we know that this, the labor, the time that we've both put into this home is of great value. But if you're looking at how can you accomplish a project on your own without spending that extra money, you're going to spend extra time, but there is usually a way to get it done.
And so I think it's important. We want to provide, educational, for those of you who want entertainment, inspiration, and we want to provide a channel that's got good, clean content that your whole family can watch. Because even our kids will sit on the couch and watch it, and they're learning something. If they're watching, they're learning. And if they learn anything just to work hard, that's important to me. I want my kids to work hard. you know, there's great satisfaction in blood, sweat, and tears in that end victory when you did that, and it's not just handed to you. I think, you know, our society has become one that, you know, we feel like we deserve stuff. And listen, if you wake up in the morning and can take a breath of air in, I feel like, you know, you should be thankful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's one thing my law enforcement career taught me, is that none of us are guaranteed tomorrow, and you need to be joyful no matter what your circumstances are. And the finish of this house is going to be amazing, and I know you guys have all been waiting patiently for that. But what's after that?
Well, you know, we've got a lot of cool things in the works. Again, we're not totally sure what all is next. We do have a cabin build. It's another post frame project that we have coming up. We're going to try to roll into that as soon as we can this summer. That's going to be really fun. We have a lot of projects planned around our house, because we're wanting to say, okay, we've gotten the house up, we have the 30 acres. Now what do you do? You know, now how can you incorporate some more self-sustaining measures into your home?
Right.
I would say, I would call us, we're going to be stay on grid, but be practical about ways that you can incorporate it into your everyday life. So I will probably get some chickens at some point.
We've always been big gardeners.
Yeah, gardening is a big deal. So we're going to try to utilize our canning kitchen a lot this summer and fall, and educate ourselves more on that. I think that there's a real art to growing your own food and canning it and preserving it, and we want to share that journey with you guys.
Yeah, I mean, there's just going to be lots of things revolved around homesteading that we'll share. I designed this house, and you know, the one thing that was important to me is not necessarily having solar and all that stuff. I mean, although that would be nice someday, but to be able to survive if we go out, you know, we lose power, we're going to have a wood stove, and we'll cover all that stuff throughout the rest of the build. But
yes, and we're going to stay transparent with you guys. We get a lot of requests for, you know, how much are your utility bills? And right now we're still in that phase where we aren't quite sure, because we're living in the garage. And so over the winter, we heated the floors for the garage and the house more than we will in coming years, you know, so we're going to try to keep, you know, stay transparent, breaking those things down for you guys. You know, we have some fun goals. You know, we'd love to see this channel grow more and be able to give back to the viewers in some fun ways. We have a couple of ideas of how we could do that in the future. But you're going to keep seeing post-frame build content on here, as well as some homesteading and life, just our life and stuff like that. So it's going to, there's going to be a little bit of something for everybody in our audience, I think.
Sure. All right, guys, so that's pretty much our story. So kind of in a nutshell. So if you have any questions or, you know, thoughts on how you can get started, you know, properly saving or going down the right track, feel free to leave a question in the comments. We'll do our best to answer them, or create content that will help everybody. Because at the end of the day, that's what we want to do. We want to help people reach their goals, and that's important, I think, in life and just going down the right path. But if you guys haven't already, do a favor, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications, share us with your friends, and we really appreciate you watching, and we will catch you on the next video.